not exactly good material for a stand-up, but I'm going to do my best. I would say that most of us think that less than best consideration, anything evaluation, is a kind of minefield. So we take our lead from the penguins on the Falkland Islands, who actually have prospered and multiplied greatly, even though they are living on the minefields left behind from the Falklands War. So we could at least do as well as that. So we made very heavy weather of this, and these are some words that were used by a group of very distinguished people who I sat listening to some years ago when they were trying to work out what best consideration and less than best consideration might be. And you can see from these are probably what they thought was the best consideration, the most money possible, they're getting a bit desperate before the end, the most cash, the quick buck, something quite pejorative. But you would say they thought that this is what the market value meant. And then there was the other side, where there were all these other sort of social worthy things that sound as if they ought to be good things, but generally were going to be a bit less than that, social value or an undervalue. And they would think that those are something quite different. So my proposition to you today is that actually that thing and the things on the first slide are the same. In the right circumstances, all these could be the best consideration reasonably obtainable. I'm going to try and explain why. Just so that you know where that was listening to the House of Commons committee stage discussion on two sections in the Housing and Regeneration Bill in 2008. And they were talking about the powers that the Homes and Communities Agency might have to sell at less than market value and what local authorities could do. Bearing in mind this was 2008, and the then Housing Minister was trying to explain to the people on the committee that included two former Housing Ministers and a lot of MPs with local government experience, is that local authorities could already do these things. They could sell quite easily at less than best consideration and take account of all those kind of social value things. And I have to say that nobody on the committee was convinced. And they thought it was far more difficult than it really was. And really that is the problem. It's a lot easier than it looks. So how do we start? I'm actually going to start with the punchline because I've only got 10 minutes, and if I don't get to the last slide, you won't get the punchline. And the punchline, also taken from the bird world, is you need to get your ducks in a row. And this comment came from the RICS Land and Society Commission in 2010-11, which was set up to see how could the profession better support communities in some of the things that were coming through the localism bill at the time, particularly on various kinds of community rights. And the evidence we were getting, mostly from surveyors in public service, particularly one who was the Chief Estate Surveyor for Cambridge County Council, was basically, these things are really difficult if you don't have what he called the proper policy architecture in place. And you would describe that as plan disposal is fully consistent with the Council's overall strategies, policies and programmes, especially its local plan and its asset management plan. Now, it is really difficult to get these things all properly aligned, but if you do, you can do almost anything. So best consideration and less than best consideration disposals could be almost the same, but in any case, they should always consider social, economic and environmental objectives. And that should be alongside what the local authority is itself planning to do, its own financial objectives, and how it wants to use its assets. But where does the trail start? We go back to the Local Government Act of 1972. This is the kind of big starting point, disposal of land by principal councils, and here quite clearly states cannot be sold for consideration less than the best that can reasonably obtain. Most people say that's the most money. But anything that has reasonably in it, as any lawyer will tell you, is open to all kinds of interpretation. The other thing is worth thinking in subsection 1, council may dispose of land held by them in any manner they wish. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to the market. It's quite clear, in any manner they wish. Then we go on to Local Government Act 2000, under New Labour, and this gave local authorities a power to do anything. But particularly in the promotion of the improvement of economic, social and environmental well-being of their area. Now, in fact, that was to honour a manifesto pledge to give local authorities powers of general competence, but in fact they chose to do something slightly different, which is to try and give it a more place-specific focus, to make sure that not just planning, but all sorts of other things that were going on in local authorities were focused on getting the best for a particular area. It's now repealed, and we'll come to that in a minute, except in Wales. Then we get to the General Consent 2003. This is the tricky bit. This is the thing that mostly you'll be kind of thinking what you have to work with. So the very simple bit is council disposals need to be the most valuable use allowed in planning for that site, and that's called the unrestricted value. So that may be more than the purpose for which the site is actually being sold, and if that gives rise to a lesser value, that is called the restricted value. You subtract the restricted value from the unrestricted value, and if it's less than 2,000, then the general consent allows the local authority to just proceed on its own account with the disposal, but if it's more than £2 million, it has to go to the Secretary of State for a specific consent. Very simple. And then you get the things that might give rise to the difference. Voluntary conditions. Voluntary conditions are important because they relate to anything that the local authority is not already required to do as a statutory duty or by a national or local policy. It also includes anything that the local authority has the power to do. Wellbeing objectives are the things that were introduced in the 2000 Act. But what's important about this is that we're in 2003, so we're a year before the planning reforms in 2004, which made social, economic and environmental objectives a fundamental cornerstone of the plan. So at the time in 2003, wellbeing objectives were not embedded in planning policy in the way that they were after 2004. So it's quite legitimate for this consent to have been conceived saying, if you're going to pursue wellbeing objectives, that may give rise to an undervalue. After 2004, if those wellbeing objectives are in your planning policies, then they would not give rise to an undervalue. That's the trick. So, the problem then was that the assumption was that there would always be a difference. And so that's why we end up with the less than problem. Everyone assumes that there's a difference that has to be accounted for. The consent is problematical. Some of the meanings in it are incomplete and have to be inferred. So a lot of interpretations, particularly on voluntary conditions. It's now obsolete because later legislation has affected it. But I think most importantly, it was framed in a kind of negative language that makes people feel cautious about it. Disposal, less than, undervalued. It feels as if you're giving away something, you're not paying a proper price for it. So although there are sound valuation principles in it, it's still problematic. We have to work with it. But fundamentally, you have to make a clear distinction between the valuation that might come out through this, and simply, if you're a local authority that needs to raise the most possible money by selling an asset, that's a perfectly legitimate political choice to make. But it's not a valuation issue, it's a political choice. So then we go on to the Localism Act. This is what we placed the Local Government Act, wellbeing powers, a general power of competence. A local authority has the power to do anything that individuals generally may do. And that applies to any type of council, including towns and parish councils. In the same Act, Localism Act, there was this kind of rather interesting sideline, is that amongst the community rights, communities were able to ask the local authority to designate particular assets as assets of community value. The criteria for designating land of community value was that it furthered the social well-being or social interests of the local community. So why didn't it include economic and environmental? It's kind of interesting omission. It could be by accident, or it could be that somebody thought, well, communities are only interested in kind of fluffy social things, not interested in these other more important things. But either way, it's a very serious diminution of the effectiveness of that particular right, because it's not grounded in planning. If it's only social, it doesn't tick the three boxes, social, economic, and environmental, which is what you get in the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004. And I think what's interesting here, this is the definition of how a local authority might exercise their power to acquire land for planning purposes. It can't do it unless it quite specifically is for the purpose of promoting economic, social, environmental well-being objectives. That's a really important kind of frame for what we're trying to do, and that's reinforced by the NPPF. Achieving sustainable development means that the planning system has three overarching objectives: economic, social, environmental, which are interdependent and need to be pursued in mutually supportive ways. So you have to think of these things as a kind of a single thing, 3 in 1. So QED, back to my punchline, all our ducks are in a row. And it seems that in these circumstances, if you can get all your policies lined up, any bit of land will be subject to those policies, regardless of whether it's a community group or anybody else. So you're creating the conditions in which every site disposal could be for the best consideration reasonably attainable. So, remember, the voluntary conditions, they're still quite problematical. There have to be something other than could be achieved by a local authority power, statutory duty, or a planning policy. It's actually quite hard to think of anything that would fall into that category. So maybe, like all the good plot lines in Line of Duty, maybe this is just a red herring, or maybe not. Then we get a Red Book valuation. Oh, we can't sell it to you. Red Book valuation says X. Okay, good, nearly there. The Red Book valuation is not the word of God. They're not the Ten Commandments. They're not tablets of stone. It's simply an internationally recognised way of doing valuation. These are standards of valuation, not the valuation itself. So surveyors, like computers, if you don't feed them with the right information and ask the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. And for surveyors, this is slightly worrying because more and more valuations are being done by artificial intelligence. So you have to ask it the right question. So here's a question you might like to ask it next time you commission one. Please do me an equitable valuation. Now, you probably won't have heard of this, but it is one of the 3 bases of valuation, including market value. It used to be called fair value, which used to be the basis, or still is, the basis on which the government in Northern Ireland has always transferred assets, either to community organisations or indeed to other people, to carry on using an asset in the way that fulfills a public purpose. It had to be retitled equitable value a couple of years ago for technical reasons. I won't go into that. But it is just worth reading what it says. Equitable value is the estimated price for the transfer of an asset or liability between identified, knowledgeable and willing parties that reflects the respective interests of those parties. Equitable value requires the assessment of the price that is fair between 2 specific identified parties, local authority, community-led housing organisation, considering the respective advantages or disadvantages that each will gain from the transaction. So if a local authority and a community-led housing organisation wish to do something that fulfills their mutually agreed purposes, equitable value seems to be the basis on which you should do valuation. And it says, in contrast, market value requires any advantages that would not be available to the market participants generally, so anybody else doing this project would not apply, and they should be disregarded. So, in these circumstances, the things that are not already covered by policy will have to be dealt with, possibly, by voluntary conditions. So we're not quite away from voluntary conditions yet. There is some scope here. But I think the thing I like about this is equitable value is a broader concept than market value. This is what it says in the International Valuation Standards. I think we should pay some more attention to this. Anyway, last one. Now, who might be a good partner to the local authority in these conditions? This picks up on what Joe was saying earlier. Going back to that Housing and Regeneration Act 2008, another section there, section 29, defined legally what the CLT is. It has to satisfy 3 conditions. Further, the economic, social, environmental interests of the local authority, again, heard that before. Own and use land and assets only to benefit the local community. Sounds a bit like that section in the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act. And the reason that they do these things, and are defined in that, is it enables them to do things that are very specific specifically for the benefit of their community, which basically is changing the way the land market works in that area, because otherwise it's not working in the area needs. And that aligns directly with how powers, its duties, and its time policy. But they're not a council, they're not representative democracy. As Joe said, they are participating democracy, they have locally accountable democratic control, and they're not the same as, but they're different from the local authority in the way that they act as a kind of democratic institution. So that is more or less it. Am I allowed to answer the questions?
Oh, go on then.
Okay. This is just to make sure that you've been paying attention. So this is multiple question time, so it's dead easy. Who said this? And the choices are either the Treasury, the Royal Institution of Chartered Affairs, or locality, who are the champion organisation for community assets transfer. Been working with government for a long time on this. So, councils do not own land for its own sake or to make profits. Assets are held for pursuing policy objectives. So, hands up for the Treasury. Okay. Hands up for the RICS. Okay. Hands up for locality. Okay, not bad. This is the Treasury. Who said this? Council should work with partners and community groups to make the best use of their assets for the benefit of their local community, using property to shape places and deliver economic, social, and environmental outcomes. Treasury? RICS? Locality? Got you. RICS. And last one, valuation of a publicly owned asset is based on the interests of society as a whole, not the council alone. Treasury? RICS? Locality? Chart.
Well, we thought there'd be one of each.
That's the trick.